The moment he tore that passbook from her trembling hands, he sealed his fate, because some mistakes don't just cost you your job, they destroy everything you've built. Welcome to my channel, friends. If you're here, it means you're searching for something deeper than entertainment. You're looking for stories that touch the heart, stories that remind us of who we are and who we can be. If that resonates with you, please take a moment to subscribe and like this video. It truly helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear these messages. The morning sun was already hot when Meera Sharma woke up that Tuesday. She didn't sleep well the night before.
How could she?
Today was important. Today, she would go to the bank and withdraw the money for Arjun's school fees. Her grandson, her precious boy, was starting a new term, and she had promised him. She had promised. Meera stood in front of her small closet, running her wrinkled hands over the few saris hanging there. She chose the one her late husband had bought her 15 years ago. It was faded now, the blue not as bright as it once was, the border threads loosening at the edges. But it was her best one. It had dignity. And today, she needed to carry all the dignity she had. She pressed it carefully with her old iron, the one that heated on the stove. Each fold mattered. Each crease had to be just right. From the other room, she could hear Arjun stirring. 12 years old, and already so full of dreams. He wanted to be an engineer, like his late grandfather. He wanted to build bridges, he said. "Dottie," he told her just last week, his eyes shining, "I want to build bridges that connect people." Her heart ached with love every time she looked at him. She checked the passbook one more time. It sat in her purse, worn at the edges, the pages yellowed with time. 40 years. 40 years of her husband's careful savings. Every month, without fail, he would set aside a portion of his civil servant salary. "For the future, Meera," he'd say. "For our children. For their children." He never got to see Arjun grow up. Cancer took him 5 years ago, but his legacy remained. In this passbook, in this account, in the future he'd built for a grandson he'd only held once as a baby. The bus ride to the upscale part of Mumbai took an hour. Meera and Arjun sat together near the back, watching the city transform outside the window. The cramped streets of their neighborhood gave way to wider roads. The small shops became glass storefronts. The people changed too, their clothes crisper, their faces more hurried. "Dottie, why is your bank so far away?" Arjun asked, his hand in hers. "It's where grandfather opened the account, Beta," she said softly. "A long time ago, when this area was different. Can I come inside with you?" She squeezed his hand. "You wait outside for me. I won't be long. Just a simple transaction. Just a simple transaction." That's what she thought. Part 2. Entering a different world. The Metropolitan Trust Bank stood like a palace of glass and marble. Meera stood outside for a moment, looking up at the building. The windows reflected the sky, making it seem endless, untouchable. People flowed in and out of the revolving doors, men in sharp suits carrying leather briefcases, women in crisp business attire speaking rapidly into phones, young professionals with laptops and confident strides. She looked down at her faded sari. "Dottie, it's so big," Arjun whispered, his eyes wide. "You stay right here on this bench, Beta. Right here. Don't move." "I won't, Dottie. I promise." She kissed his forehead and turned toward the entrance. The blast of air conditioning hit her the moment she stepped inside. It was so cold. The marble floor gleamed beneath her worn chappals, so polished she could almost see her reflection. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Everything was white and gold and perfect. And she felt like a smudge on a clean page. People glanced at her as she walked through the lobby. Some quickly looked away. Others let their eyes linger, their expressions asking the silent question, "What is she doing here?" Meera felt her heart hammering in her chest, but she kept walking. She had every right to be here. This was her bank, her account, her money, her husband's legacy. The customer service area had several counters. She approached the one that seemed least busy, where a young woman was typing on her computer. But before Meera could speak, a man's voice cut through the air. That line is for premium customers only. She turned. A man in his 40s stood behind the counter to her left, his name badge reading, Rajiv Malhotra, branch manager. His suit was expensive, his hair perfectly styled, his watch gleaming gold on his wrist. His eyes traveled over her slowly, from her faded sari to her worn purse to her calloused hands. And in that moment, Mira saw something in his face that she'd seen before. Something that made her feel small. Something that judged her before she'd spoken a single word. Contempt. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling starting in her hands. "I said that line is for premium customers." His tone was sharp, dismissive. "General inquiries are handled at the cooperative banks. This is Metropolitan Trust Bank." A few people in the lobby turned to look. Mira felt her face grow hot. "I am a customer here. I have an account. I need to make a withdrawal." Malhotra's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. He glanced at the security guard standing nearby, then back at her. His voice grew louder, as if performing for an audience. "Madam, we don't handle petty cash transactions for domestic help here. There are local cooperatives that serve your needs better. This bank is for—" "I am not asking for charity," Mira interrupted, her voice trembling now but firm. "I am asking to access my own account." She reached into her purse and pulled out the passbook. Her hands shook as she placed it on the counter between them. Part 3. The Confrontation. Malhotra looked at the passbook like it was something dirty. He picked it up with just 2 fingers, as if touching it might contaminate him. He opened it, his eyes scanning the first page. Then he stopped. His eyebrows rose. This says it's a legacy gold account." He looked up at her, his expression caught between disbelief and something darker. "That's impossible." "It's my account," Mira said quietly. "My husband opened it 40 years ago. I need to withdraw money for my grandson's school fees." Malhotra flipped through the pages. She could see the calculations happening in his mind, the deposits listed year after year, the balance growing steadily over decades. His face changed. The contempt shifted into something colder. "Where did you get this?" His voice was loud now. Other customers had stopped their transactions to watch. "These accounts are only opened with minimum deposits of 50,000 rupees. There's no way. My husband was a civil servant. We saved. You probably stole this." The words hung in the air like a slap. The lobby went quiet. Everyone was staring now. Mira felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "What did you say?" "I said," Malhotra raised his voice even louder, addressing the entire lobby now, "this woman has presented what appears to be a stolen passbook. This is clearly fraud." "It's not stolen. It's mine. My husband." "Your husband?" He laughed, actually laughed, and several clients nearby smirked. "Madam, do you know how much money needs to be in a legacy gold account? Do you honestly expect anyone to believe?" The word echoed through the marble lobby. A security guard approached, young and uncertain, his hand hovering near his radio. "This woman is attempting fraud. Please escort her from the premises. I'm keeping this passbook as evidence. The police will be notified." "No." Mira reached for the passbook, but Malhotra had already moved it further away. "That's mine." "You can't." "Ma'am, please come with me." The security guard's voice was gentle, but his hand was on her arm. "Let go of me. Check the account. Just check." But no one was listening. The guard was pulling her gently but firmly toward the door. People were whispering. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked satisfied, as if their suspicions had been confirmed. "See? She didn't belong here after all." Mira's eyes filled with tears. Not just from the humiliation, though that burned like fire in her chest, but from the helplessness, from the injustice, from being treated like a criminal when she'd done nothing wrong. The security guard walked her to the entrance. The revolving door spun. The cold air conditioning gave way to the hot Mumbai sun. And then she was outside, standing on the sidewalk, empty-handed. Part 4. The Aftermath and the Hidden Truth. "Dottie." Arjun jumped up from the bench, his face bright with anticipation. But the moment he saw her face, his smile disappeared. "Dottie, what happened?" Where's the money? Are you crying? Mira tried to wipe her eyes quickly, but the tears kept coming. She pulled Arjun close, holding him tight, not trusting herself to speak. Dottie, what did they do? Why are you crying? They wouldn't help me, Beta. Her voice was barely a whisper. They took the passbook. They said I stole it.
What?
But that's grandfather's. That's yours. I know, Beta. I know. They stood there on the sidewalk, in the shadow of that glass and marble building. People walked past them without looking. The city moved on, indifferent to their pain. The walk to the bus stop felt like walking through water. Everything was heavy. Everything hurt. On the bus ride home, Arjun held her hand tightly. He didn't ask more questions. He just sat close to her, his young face troubled, trying to understand how the world could be so cruel to his grandmother. Back in their small home, Mira sat on her bed. The press sorry now seemed foolish. All that care, all that hope. She thought about her husband, about the years he'd worked, about the sacrifices they'd made. Skipping meals to save money, walking instead of taking transportation, wearing the same clothes until they fell apart. All of it for the future. All of it for moments like this, for Arjun's education, for his dreams, for his bridges. And now some arrogant man in an expensive suit had stolen it all. But here's what Rajiv Malhotra didn't know. He didn't know that Rakesh Sharma, the simple civil servant in the faded sari-wearing wife, had been one of the most respected tax officers in Mumbai. Honest to a fault. Incorruptible. Known throughout the civil service for his integrity. He didn't know that the account he dismissed as impossible had been built rupee by rupee over 40 years. Small deposits that grew into something substantial. Something meant for education. For family. For love. He didn't know that the worn passbook he'd seized so confidently held not just money, but a lifetime of dreams. And most critically, most devastatingly for Rajiv Malhotra, he didn't know about Vikram. Vikram Sharma. Mira's son. The boy who'd grown up watching his father's quiet dignity and his mother's gentle strength. Who'd put himself through law school while his parents saved every paisa. Who'd become one of Mumbai's most successful corporate lawyers. Who is now a senior partner at Khanna and Associates, the firm that handled every major transaction for Metropolitan Trust Bank. The firm whose accounts made up 30% of the bank's corporate portfolio. Mira didn't want to call him. She'd never wanted to burden her children with her problems. She'd always handled things herself, just as her husband had taught her. But sometimes dignity demands justice. Her hand shook as she picked up her old mobile phone. Sometimes respect isn't given. It has to be taken back. And in this city of millions, in this web of connections that Rajiv Malhotra knew nothing about, he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The phone rang once.
Twice. Ma?
Is everything okay? Mira closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was no longer just a helpless old woman. She was a mother, a grandmother, a keeper of her husband's legacy. Vikram, she said, her voice steadier now. Beta, I need your help. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Vikram Sharma was in the middle of a meeting when his mother called. He'd stepped out immediately, he always did when she called. Ma never interrupted him unless it was important. She understood his work, respected his time. That's how she'd raised him. Ma, what happened? His voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. The kind of edge that came from knowing something was wrong. Mira sat on her bed, Arjun beside her holding her free hand. She didn't want to do this. She'd spent her whole life not being a burden. Not asking for help. Handling things on her own. But some things a person shouldn't have to handle alone. I went to the bank today, she began, her voice quiet, to withdraw money for Arjun's school fees. The Metropolitan Trust account? Papa's account. Yes. She paused, trying to find the words. How do you tell your son that you were humiliated? That strangers laughed at you? That you were treated like a criminal?
Ma?
What happened at the bank? And then it poured out. All of it. The manager's contempt. The accusations. The way he'd seized the passbook. The security guard pulling her out while people watched.
The shame.
The helplessness. As she spoke, Vikram said nothing. But Mira could hear something changing on the other end of the line. It was like hearing ice form over water. That kind of quiet. That kind of cold. "Ma," he said when she finished, and his voice was different now. Controlled.
Precise.
Dangerous. What was the manager's name? "Beta, please, I don't want trouble. Maybe, if we just go to another branch."
Ma.
His name. Rajiv Malhotra. Another pause. Then, "I'm coming there now. Right now." "Vikram, no. Your work. You have."
Ma.
His voice softened, just for a moment. "Do you remember what Papa used to say? About dignity?" Mira closed her eyes. Of course she remembered. Rakesh had said it 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways. Dignity is not negotiable. "Papa spent 40 years building that account," Vikram continued. "Not for the money.
For the respect.
For the future. For us. And some." He stopped controlling himself. "I'm coming there. To the bank. Within the hour. Beta, I don't want you to use your position. I don't want. This isn't about my position, Ma." His voice was quiet now but firm. "This is about what's right. This is about a bank manager who looked at my mother, and decided she wasn't worthy of basic human respect. That's not business. That's not procedure. That's cruelty. And cruelty has consequences." After he hung up, Mira sat holding the phone. Arjun looked up at her. "Is Papa coming?" "Yes, Beta. He's coming." "Good." There was something in the boy's voice she'd never heard before. Something hard.
Good.
Part 2. The Return. 45 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled up in front of the Metropolitan Trust Bank. Vikram Sharma stepped out. He was 42 years old, wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than some people made in 6 months. But it wasn't the suit that made people turn and look. It was something else. The way he carried himself. The focus in his eyes. He looked exactly like his father. The same strong jaw. The same steady gaze. But where Rakesh Sharma's strength had been quiet and patient, Vikram's was sharp and purposeful. He'd built his career on precision. On seeing through corporate lies and financial manipulations. On holding powerful people accountable. Today, he would do it for his mother. The lobby of Metropolitan Trust Bank was busy with afternoon transactions. The same marble floors. The same crystal chandeliers. The same air of untouchable perfection. Vikram walked in, and something shifted in the atmosphere. A junior manager recognized him immediately. Her eyes went wide. She whispered something to her colleague. Within seconds, multiple staff members had noticed. The man from Khanna and Associates. Senior partner. The lawyer who handled their biggest accounts. What was he doing here in person? Vikram walked directly to Malhotra's counter. Rajiv Malhotra was helping another customer, explaining some investment options with the same smooth confidence he'd used that morning. He didn't look up immediately. "Excuse me," Vikram said quietly. "Rajiv Malhotra?" Malhotra glanced up, ready to dismiss whoever was interrupting him. But when he saw Vikram, his expression changed. Recognition. Confusion. Then the first flicker of concern. "Mr. Sharma? This is unexpected. How can I?" "Step away from your customer for a moment, please." It wasn't a request. Malhotra excused himself, walking around the counter. "Is there a problem with one of the firm's accounts?" "I can assure you." "This morning," Vikram interrupted, his voice low but clear, "an elderly woman came to this bank. To this counter. She presented a passbook for a legacy gold account that's been active for 40 years. Do you remember this?" The color began draining from Malhotra's face. There was a situation this morning, yes, but..." "A situation." Vikram's voice was cold. "Is that what you call it? Tell me, Mr. Malhotra, what exactly was the situation?" People in the lobby were starting to notice. Conversations fading. Attention shifting. The woman presented a passbook that seemed irregular. The account type didn't match her appearance suggested. Her appearance? Vikram took a step closer. "Go on." "What did her appearance suggest?" Malhotra was sweating now. "Mr. Sharma, I'm not sure what this is about, but I followed proper protocol when dealing with suspected. That woman was my mother. The words fell like stones into still water. The lobby went completely silent. Malhotra's face went from pale to gray. I had no way of knowing. You had no way of knowing? Vikram's voice was still quiet, still controlled, but there was steel underneath. Or you didn't bother to check. You didn't verify the account? You didn't look at the records? You just assumed that because she wore a faded sari, because she looked like someone you could dismiss, that she must be lying. There are procedures for suspicious. Show me the passbook.
What?
The passbook you seized from my mother. Show it to me.
Now.
Malhotra hesitated, then went to his desk. His hands shook as he retrieved the worn passbook. He handed it to Vikram. Vikram opened it. Right there, in the lobby, he read aloud. Account holder, Rakesh Sharma. Civil servant, Government of India. Opened, March 1983. Account type, Legacy Gold. Co-holder, Meera Sharma. He looked up. My father. My mother. 42 years of savings. Every deposit documented. Every transaction legitimate. He turned to the gathered crowd. Some had their phones out recording. Good. Let them record. My father was one of the most honest men in the civil service. He walked to work to save money. He wore the same 2 sets of clothes for years. He and my mother skipped meals so they could save for their children's education, for their grandchildren's future. Every rupee in this account was earned with integrity and saved with love. He turned back to Malhotra. And this morning, you looked at my mother and saw what? A thief? A fraud? Someone not worthy of basic human decency. Mr. Sharma, please, I apologize. I made a mistake. I should have. You should have treated her with respect. Vikram's voice rose slightly. You should have verified before accusing. You should have remembered that every person who walks through these doors has a story you don't know. A dignity you have no right to strip away. The security guard who'd escorted Meera out was standing near the entrance. Vikram noticed him. You, he said. You're the one who removed her? The young man looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Sir, I was following orders. I didn't. You didn't question those orders? The guard's eyes filled with shame. No, sir. A woman's voice cut through the tension. What is going on here? Everyone turned. Neeta Kapoor, regional director, strode into the lobby. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with a reputation for running tight operations. She looked at Vikram, then at Malhotra, reading the situation instantly. Mr. Sharma, I wasn't informed you were visiting. Is there a problem? Yes, Ms. Kapoor. There is a very serious problem. Neeta Kapoor's office was on the 3rd floor, overlooking the Mumbai skyline. But they didn't go there. Vikram insisted the conversation happen in the lobby. Public accountability for public humiliation. He explained everything. Every detail. Every word Malhotra had said. Every assumption he'd made. The seizure of the passbook. The accusation of theft. The security escort. All of it. Neeta Kapoor's expression grew darker with each sentence. When Vikram finished, she turned to Malhotra. Is this accurate? Malhotra opened his mouth, then closed it. What could he say? There were witnesses. There would be security footage. The truth was undeniable. I made an error in judgment, he finally said. But I was trying to protect the bank from what? Neeta's voice was sharp. From a legitimate account holder accessing her own money? From a woman whose husband banked with us for 4 decades? From a customer who deserved your respect regardless of what she was wearing? She looked at the passbook still in Vikram's hand. She'd been in banking for 30 years. She knew what a 40-year account meant. The loyalty.
The trust.
Mr. Malhotra, you're suspended immediately pending a full investigation. She turned to her assistant. Call HR. I want a complete review of this incident. Security footage. Customer complaints. Everything. Ms. Kapoor, please, I have a family. So does Mrs. Sharma, Neeta said coldly. The grandmother you humiliated. The woman you called a thief in front of a room full of strangers. She turned to Vikram. Mr. Sharma, on behalf of Metropolitan Trust Bank, I offer our deepest apologies. This behavior is unacceptable and does not represent our values or standards. Your apology needs to be offered to my mother, not to me. Of course. I'd like to visit her personally if she'll allow it. Vikram nodded. I'll ask her. And regarding the withdrawal she came to make? I'll handle it, along with closing this account and moving her funds to an institution that treats all customers with dignity. That got Nita's attention. Vikram saw her calculate quickly the account value, the family connection, the potential loss of Khanna and associates as a client. Mr. Sharma, please.
Let us make this right.
Let us show you and your mother that this was an aberration, not our standard. That remains to be seen. As Vikram left the bank, passbook in hand, he heard Nita Kapoor's voice behind him. Mr. Malhotra, security will escort you out. Your termination will be effective immediately. The days that followed moved quickly. Nita Kapoor visited Mira at her home personally. She brought the branch's senior managers. They apologized sincerely, not with corporate script, but with genuine remorse. They listened as Mira told them what it felt like to be dismissed, to be accused, to be humiliated. It wasn't about the money, Mira said quietly. It was about being seen as human, as worthy of respect. Nita nodded. Mrs. Sharma, we failed you. But I want you to know, your experience will create change. And it did. Within 2 weeks, Metropolitan Trust Bank announced mandatory sensitivity training for all staff. Not just a video to watch and forget, but real training. Scenarios. Role-playing. Learning to see beyond appearances. They established a customer advocacy office. A place where complaints of discrimination could be reported directly, investigated independently. And then came the announcement that made the newspapers. The Rakesh Sharma Memorial Scholarship. A fund seeded by the bank and supported by contributions from staff and customers who'd heard the story. A scholarship for students from modest backgrounds pursuing education in civil service, engineering, or public service. The first recipient was announced 6 weeks later. A girl from a small village in Maharashtra who wanted to be a civil engineer. She stood on stage at the award ceremony, holding her certificate, tears streaming down her face. In the audience, Arjun watched with wide eyes. Dottie, he whispered, that's because of grandfather? Yes, Beta. Because of him. And because sometimes, when something wrong happens, we can make it right. The security guard, his name was Anil Pawar, resigned from the bank 3 days after the incident. But he didn't disappear. He started volunteering at an elderly rights organization. He gave talks at community centers about standing up against discrimination, about not being complicit in cruelty just because you're following orders. I'll never forget her face, he said in one interview. The way she looked at me when I took her arm. Like I'd betrayed something basic. Something human. I can't undo that moment. But I can make sure I never let it happen again. And I can help others understand what I learned. As for Rajiv Malhotra, he found another job eventually. A smaller bank, a lesser position. Some said he'd been humbled. Others said he'd learned nothing. But in the break rooms and corridors of banks across Mumbai, his story was told. A cautionary tale. A reminder. Don't judge by appearances. Don't assume by clothes. Treat every person who walks through your door like they matter. Because they do. Part 4. The Legacy. 3 months after that terrible morning, Mira returned to the Metropolitan Trust Bank. Not because she had to. The account could have been managed online, or Vikram could have handled it. But she wanted to go back. She needed to. This time, Arjun came inside with her. The lobby looked the same. Marble floors. Crystal chandeliers. The same cold air conditioning. But everything felt different. The staff greeted her by name. Mrs. Sharma, welcome. How can we help you today? The new branch manager, a woman named Priya Mehta, came out personally to assist her. She was young, efficient, and respectful. She treated Mira exactly the same way she'd treat anyone else. With dignity. When the transaction was complete, Priya handed back the passbook. Mrs. Sharma, I want you to know, your story changed this bank. changed me, honestly. I was working at another branch when I heard about it. It made me think about every customer I'd ever made assumptions about, every person I'd judged before listening. Mira smiled softly. Then something good came from something painful. Yes, ma'am. It did. Outside, in the Mumbai heat, Arjun took his grandmother's hand. Dottie, can I ask you something? Of course, Beta. When that man was mean to you, why didn't you get angry? Why didn't you yell at him? Mira thought about this as they walked to the bus stop. Because, Arjun, anger is easy. Anger feels powerful in the moment. But dignity, real dignity, that's different. Your grandfather taught me that. Dignity means knowing your worth even when others don't see it. It means staying true to who you are, even when people try to make you small. But he made you cry.
Yes, he did.
And that's okay. Crying doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. The strength isn't in not feeling pain. The strength is in not letting that pain make you cruel. They waited at the bus stop, the city moving around them. Papa made them apologize, though, Arjun said. He made sure they knew what they did wrong.
Yes, he did.
Because there's a difference between dignity and doormat, Beta. We don't seek revenge, but we do require justice. We don't hold grudges, but we do demand change. Your grandfather was the same way. Quiet but firm. Gentle, but uncompromising about what was right. The bus arrived. They climbed on, finding seats near the window. I'm going to be like that, Arjun said suddenly. When I grow up, when I build my bridges, I'm going to treat everyone with respect. No matter what they wear, no matter where they come from. Mira squeezed his hand. Then your grandfather's legacy lives on. That's what that account was always for, Beta. Not just money for school, but lessons about integrity, about respect, about dignity. Months turned into years. Arjun did go on to study engineering. The Rakesh Sharma Memorial Scholarship helped other students too. The bank's training programs became a model that other institutions copied. And Mira? She kept living her quiet life. She never sought recognition for what happened. She never told the story unless asked. She didn't need the world to know. She knew, but sometimes, when she sat alone in the evening, she would take out that worn passbook. She'd run her fingers over the pages, reading her late husband's careful handwriting in the early entries. And she'd smile, because this wasn't just a record of transactions. It was a record of love, of sacrifice, of integrity, of a life lived with dignity. And now it was also a record of change, of justice, of a moment when cruelty was met with accountability, when prejudice was challenged, when one woman's quiet strength rippled out into the world and made it just a little bit better. That passbook, worn and faded and precious, held more than money. It held proof that respect is not earned by wealth or appearance. It's owed to every person, always. Because dignity, real dignity, is not negotiable. It never was. It never will be. Friends, this story is about more than one grandmother and one bank. It's about every time we've judged someone by their appearance. Every time we've assumed we know someone's story before listening. Every time we've treated another human being as less than they are. We all have the power to choose. In every interaction, in every moment, we can choose judgment, or we can choose respect. We can choose cruelty, or we can choose kindness. We can choose to see appearances, or we can choose to see humanity. Mira Sharma didn't become important because her son had power. She was always important. She always mattered. The tragedy is that it took that power to make others see what should have been obvious from the start. We shouldn't need dramatic reveals to treat people with dignity. We should do it because it's right. Because every person walking this earth carries stories we cannot see, struggles we cannot know, and a fundamental worth that has nothing to do with their clothes, their wealth, or their station in life. So the next time you meet someone, ask yourself, am I seeing them? Really seeing them? Or am I seeing my assumptions? The world changes one choice at a time, one moment of respect at a time, one act of human decency at a time. Be the change. If this story touched your heart, please share it. Let it reach someone who needs to hear it. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. And in the comments tell me, have you ever witnessed or experienced something like this? How did it change you? Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for caring about stories that matter. Until next time, remember, dignity is not negotiable.
Take care, friends.